Welcome to RNS Podcast. My name's Dylan.
And I'm Evan.
This week, Evan, we're to talk about nothing.
Nothing.
But Half Nelson.
Nothing.
Film.
Are you sure?
Only the film Half Nelson we're here to talk about.
Okay.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to hear nothing else
Okay.
about you talking about that. But thank you for clicking the video, checking out the video. We're to talk about Half Nelson. But first, if you don't mind leaving a like or subscribing, you want to come back and watch maybe another video,
Click the bell.
click the bell for notifications. You can get notified when we release a new episode.
And leave a comment.
And leave a comment for sure, because this episode, this movie, this film, is chock full of information and knowledge that is ripe to be discussed.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So please leave a comment, because I know you're smart out there. You'll think of a great comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or tell us what you think about us. Do
Yeah.
you think we stink?
Tell us.
Say so.
Tell
Stop being
us
a bitch.
Who's hotter, me or Evan? Who's hotter? Tell us
really
that. I'm gonna pull up the letterbox for Half Nelson real quick.
Okay.
Do you have any initial thoughts to bring up about Half Nelson?
About Half Nelson?
Yeah.
It is a 2006
Correct.
film starring Ryan Gosling,
Okay, that's right.
directed by Ryan Fleck,
That's right.
and written by both him and what's her name, Anna something with a V. They co-directed the classic MCU film Captain Marvel.
Anna Boden.
Anna Boden, and they directed Captain Marvel.
And
So
guess
there you
what? We have an Marvel Cinematic Universe alum in this film as well.
go. Yeah, and a future alum.
And a future alum. Yeah. Well, I was gonna make the joke already.
Oh,
I was gonna be like, oh, we have Sentry in here as the main character. Now, but Ryan Gosling, of course, he's rumored to be joining the MCU.
awesome.
But we're really talking about Anthony Mackie, of course. Sam Wilson.
But Half Nelson, as I said, starring Ryan Gosling. Of course, he was nominated for his first Academy Award for this film. It was.
Oh, my goodness.
And rightfully so. He puts on
Good performance.
Quite the performance in this film, I would say.
I would be forced to agree with you.
Yeah, you have no choice.
Yeah,
'Cause
I have no choice.
If you don't know, every episode of RNS Podcast, I'm holding Dylan at gunpoint.
I am
you have to
being-
agree with everything I say.
I am being held hostage in multitude of ways. You're facing charges not dissimilar to Justin Roiland's charges.
Don't say that.
Of illegal holding.
Okay, this is a joke.
Yeah, well, anyways.
Don't compare me to that man.
To that real offender.
I don't even know what he did, but we're not here to talk about that.
Well, just real quick. He hit his wife.
Oh.
And he's also being charged... Well, no, not his wife. Sorry, an ex-girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
He hit an
Is he
ex-girlfriend.
married?
No, I don't think so.
Well, yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Well, he's really funny. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So, but Half Nelson. I told you we're here to talk about nothing but Half Nelson. Okay.
Yeah.
So, brief analogies are fine, but only Half Nelson.
Okay.
Would you like me to read the synopsis?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the synopsis for this film. Despite his dedication to the junior high students who fill his classroom, I think that should be whom.
Okay.
I'm probably wrong. Idealistic teacher Dan Dunn leads a secret life of addiction
Yeah.
that the majority of his students will never know. But things change when a troubled student, Dre, makes a startling discovery of his secret, causing a tenuous bond between the two that could either end disastrously or provide a catalyst of hope. It's kind of a shitty synopsis.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's like...
It's fine. I don't know.
I know it's a little wordy and
Yeah.
trying to be like, oh, what happens to them? Like, they're friends.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a good movie though. Where should we start?
This is your first time watching it, Dylan.
This is my first time watching it. Is this your second time?
Yeah, this is my second time.
How did you feel coming out of it the second time?
I enjoyed it as much as I did the first time.
And I if I recall correctly, Evan, I think you gave it 4 stars before you rewatched it.
I did.
So it stands at 4 stars.
Correct.
I think it's a great film. I think it's a great story. But I will say, I want to say off the top, okay, off the very top of the episode.
Yeah.
This is one of the movies that we reviewed that I strongly recommend that you watch the movie over the podcast.
I say that in every episode.
There are some... well, no, you don't. There are some episodes where I'm like, well, you know, you just hear us talk shit about the movie and just talk about it, whatever. Like really, like Master of Disguise. Do people need to watch Master of Disguise before they watch? Yes, they do. You're right. It is a masterpiece in its own way. But this is one where
Love Guru coming this year.
Coming soon, very soon.
Oh, okay.
Nutty Professor.
Nutty Professor.
No, what's the other one? Norbit.
Yeah,
Norbit. That's what I was looking for. But yeah, it's I think it was it wasn't like ruined, but it was like slightly
Ruin Johnson.
It was no. I said only Half Nelson. We talk about.
Yeah, but you said like little.
No.
I just said Ruin Johnson. I expected you to keep talking.
No. Anyways, it didn't ruin the movie. Ruin Johnson. It didn't ruin Johnson the movie for me, but it did. I think it diluted the movie slightly for me, knowing spoilers.
You knew spoilers before
Yes.
watching it?
Yes.
Oh. Wow.
And I think the movie.
That's on you, fam.
Fuck you. Fuck you. But the movie unfolds in such a way that it's like it's pretty organic. It's not like you're spoiling twists, but I think the movie kind of cleverly unfolds in a way.
What was spoiled for you?
Well, I guess we'll get into it. So turn the video off. Go watch the movie.
Yeah.
It's free on this very platform on YouTube.
Don't tell them.
It's free.
I don't want someone to come take it down.
No, it's free like through the YouTube Movies app. Like
nice.
It's completely free and legal through YouTube. I think you might have to watch ads. I didn't have to watch ads because I have premium. But it's completely free on YouTube through YouTube.
Thanks, YouTube.
Thank you, YouTube. Sponsor us, YouTube. But yeah, it what was I talking about? Half Nelson, obviously.
What was spoiled for you?
Oh, what was spoiled for me? Okay, so go watch the movie first, and then come back. So what was spoiled for me is that Anthony Mackie is like the drug dealer, which might seem very obvious, but it kind of unfolds in a way where you're not really sure what his role in Dre's life is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of unfolds where you kind of realize, like, oh, like, he caught up the Dre's brother in selling drugs, and now he's trying to get her to sell drugs, and there's a fucked up scenario.
How was it spoiled?
I just watched a review of it.
Oh, okay,
and the guy kind of, of course, like, went into detail about, what happens.
Well, that's not much. That's not like a huge spoiler.
I'm not saying it's a huge spoiler, but I think the movie's dialogue and the way it, like, provides information, like, really subtly is really good. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of figure out for yourself, like, what Dre's situation is with her mom and her brother, and with Anthony Mackie's character.
That is true, because you are right. It doesn't the movie doesn't spoon feed you information. Yeah, it's like I agree with you. It's very it unfolds. It unfolds slowly through the dialogue. I agree. That was a good way to put it.
So I think that's very
really
intentional, and it's like it makes the movie better if you don't really know anything. I mean, if you know the basic premise, that's fine, but. Yeah, because it adds to the tension of the first scenes with Anthony Mackie and the way he interacts with Dre and stuff. So. Yeah, very cool.
I agree.
So, would you like to start anywhere in particular? Would you like to talk about the cast?
I do want to talk about
the director, or
good. I feel like this. It's I want to talk about the title really quick.
Half Nelson,
and I want to say, and this. I'm not going to shit on the movie because, I quite enjoy this movie. But I think the title is stupid. I'm going to be honest.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I think I get what it means because a Half Nelson's like a wrestling move. And it's
right.
Like, you're like stuck. And I get it. It's like, him and Dre, him being, what's his name? Daniel, right? Dan?
Dan.
Yeah.
Daniel Dunn.
I call him Daniel. So, Yeah. I'm not that close to him, so I have to call him Daniel. Daniel, and Dre, they're both stuck in this kind of cycle, because that's a big thing in the movie. And so, but, okay, yeah, so, we can get into that. But I think the title is stupid, just in that, like, they're like, because wrestling or wrestling analogies have nothing to do with the actual movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's, like, one part where I think they mention a full Nelson.
I don't even remember that.
And at some point, I might be wrong.
I don't think the words are ever uttered. I could be wrong, but I don't remember
think they mention full Nelson, because I was looking for it. I was like, where's the title come from?
I don't remember that. It's possible, but I don't remember that. But, and, he's a coach in the movie, I hope. It's basketball.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, I don't know, like, they could have just called the movie like, oh, Stuck. You know what I mean? So it's a very minor criticism, but I think the title is kind of stupid. Like, I feel like if you wanted to do anything, you could have had like maybe like a basketball analogy.
That would be better.
Or something like that.
That
you
would
know
be
what I mean?
better. Yeah.
I was like I said, it's a very minor criticism, but I'm like, it doesn't really add up with the rest of the movie. Besides, like, the deeper meaning or whatever.
I thought his name was going to be Nelson.
Yeah.
I thought, kind of, but yeah. I do agree with you. I mean, maybe they could have found a better... They could have called the movie Technical Foul.
Yeah.
As per the Adam Sandler classic.
But,
8 Crazy Nights.
Yeah, like I said, very minor criticism, but I just wanted to, start off the top with that.
Yeah, I don't love the title either. Is this the second... what's his name?
This or character? Maybe like because he's like writing a children's book about dialectics.
Yeah.
Maybe like use a term that has something to do with that. You know what I mean? Something like that. Something more relevant to the movie.
Something that's in the text.
Yeah.
Something that's informed. The movie is informed by or something.
Exactly. But it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like I said, minor criticism. But
I vote for. They should have called it 3-pointer.
Yeah.
Because there are 3 points of view.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, whatever.
I think it's mostly 2, but
no,
sure.
No. So is this only the second Ryan Gosling movie we've done?
This is our 3rd one.
So what are we
We've done Drive and Blade Runner.
Drive, of course, yes. Okay.
That's and Blade Runner 2049.
So there's 3 Ryan Gosling films?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Not too many big names in this movie, really just Ryan Gosling and Anthony Mackie.
What about the girl? Did she ever do anything crazy?
Well, I think this was like her first movie.
Sharika Epps?
Yeah.
You know what she was in?
What was she in?
She was in Alien vs. Predator, Requiem.
That was a terrible movie. Mm-hmm. That was really bad.
Well, she was in that.
I don't hate the first Alien vs. Predator, but the sequel was terrible.
Yeah, she's not been in anything.
Yeah, I think this was her first movie. And the movie is very low budget. It was under $1 million, only $700,000.
And even though it's a low budget movie, it it looks good. It doesn't feel you don't see the budget being lacking in any places. It's they probably shelled out.
Well, it's very constrained.
They probably shelled out for their school location, and they shelled out for a couple houses or so.
And Ryan Gosling
and Ryan, but Ryan apparently right he wasn't paid very much at all for this movie.
I assume not.
He did it out of the bottom of his heart.
Yeah. And at the time, like the only really big thing he had been in was The Notebook. That was before this.
The Notebook was before this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Even though that was, of course, a really big movie.
Right.
Yeah. What did they say? One for them, one for me? This one for him.
Oh, yeah.
So. But yeah, just like I said, just mostly him and Anthony Mackie. Do you want to get into the plot a bit?
Oh, sure.
Oh, and also I want to say, but how are you saying? It doesn't really look lacking. I like the way this movie is shot. It's kind of like it is mostly handheld, and it kind of gives you like a documentary kind of style. I don't know if you agree, but that's how I felt when I was watching it.
I agree.
Not like overtly or anything, but like it's kind of like
it's kind of voyeuristic in a way. We were just watching a terrible video essay before this about something else,
but no, seriously, yeah,
it is kind of voyeuristic in that way, like the way when characters, I think like one of his girlfriends and then also Dre at some point are like looking around his apartment, and it kind of shows it in kind of a detached way. There's a lot of close-ups.
There are.
Yeah, but it's a good looking movie. It understands the language of film. Yeah. So good for them. Yeah, good on them for getting it together for that small budget.
And also, sorry, I just want to talk about some of the technical stuff before we get into the story. I also like the score done by a Canadian band, Broken Social Scene. Cool. It's like very low key 2000s indie kind of vibes.
Okay, alright, I vibe with that.
So yeah, I enjoyed it. It fit the mood of the movie because the movie does feel very much like, because like how like indie films of the 90s all have, like a lot of them have a very similar feel. This definitely feels like the 2000s indie, kind of like IFC movie kind of vibe. It definitely falls into there, I think.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of, in subject matter and style, of that one movie that I keep bringing up. That, what's it called? Sorry. Before I Disappear.
Before I Disappear.
It reminds me a lot of that movie. And I've really been in the mood for that kind of movie lately.
Yeah.
You know, just a strung out, drug addict guy.
He's literally me.
And a little girl.
He's literally me.
Very cool.
Good movie.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to be honest though, I didn't notice the score really.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it doesn't really like punch you in the face. You know what I mean?
No, I feel you, but it's something that I only really notice in when the score is like bombastic or anything. When I'm watching epic movies like Star Wars. But yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to discuss anything else before the story?
We can get into it.
All right.
Yeah.
The story is.
It starts out with what is the opening scene in the movie? Is
it
him?
Know.
Oh, it's him on the couch.
Well, isn't he sitting on the floor?
Oh, he's on the floor. Okay, he's sitting on the floor.
Like under the glass table?
Yeah. He does have a very rundown apartment. I like how his apartment looks.
I kind of like his apartment.
But it's like very rundown. Like the couch is fucked up. Everything's like.
One thing I loved about it.
Yeah.
One thing I loved about it. I think it was in the first scene here, where I think he's listening to voice messages is that the first scene or is that later?
No, that's later.
Well, either way, at some point he's kind of walking around his apartment doing stuff, and then you see like
that's after his first day.
You know, he has
not his first day, but the first day we see.
The first day of work we see with him. But he's like walking around his apartment doing shit, and then he sees like, or you see like, dirty dishes like just on his bedside table and like bowls, and I don't know, it just felt real. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. They did a really good job making his apartment look like an addict's kind of a apartment.
Well,
or not even just an addict, just like
my apartment. Yeah.
Someone depressed.
Easy.
I mean,
but it does.
In the movie.
It does.
I don't know what to say.
Look very organic.
Yeah.
The same with the classroom, and there's a few other locations.
Yeah,
in the movie, and they look lived in. They look real.
Yeah,
probably because they paid their friend to shoot in their house.
Possibly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Who knows? But they did a great job with that.
Yeah. Well, he teaches at like an inner city school,
Uh-oh.
And I want to just say off the top. So I feel like the very basic premise of the movie is very cliche, but it doesn't go in the direction you would expect it to. You know what I mean? Like the good teacher in the inner city school kind of movie. You know?
The very basic synopsis from Letterboxd makes it sound like a kind of a different kind of movie.
No, I don't even mean that. I just mean like,
or not even just Letterboxd.
It's about like the white teacher in the inner city school, like the good teacher. You know what I mean?
Like
it seems like a very cliche.
The most basic synopsis sounds like, well, I know where this is going.
Yeah. But it doesn't really go the way you would traditionally expect it to. You know
Isn't
what I mean?
that right?
Yeah, because he himself is a troubled individual. He's not perfect. You know what I mean?
He's not. He's troubled. One thing I think is this might be getting ahead of myself a little bit, Evan. If you don't mind me saying so.
Okay. Well, it's okay. It's our podcast. We do whatever we want.
I like the fact that they bring up race. Doesn't feel forced when they do, but it feels more like he's an extension of his environment, and it doesn't feel cheap. Like it feels like he happens to be white, but he's just one of the, he's just one of the people in this area, despite his race.
Yeah, that's true. But I do think he purposefully chooses to live in like
the inner city.
Yeah, in like a lower class area, because you see his family and everything.
Well, yeah, his family's definitely like
middle class,
better off than he is.
Yeah, he's
himself.
Middle class. Yeah, and then you also know like his ideals kind of oppose what his families are, because
they roast him a little bit.
Well, not even just that, but like because like I said, we mentioned off the top, the movie doesn't really spoon feed you information. You kind of just have to interpret off the little things it gives you, and he's obviously very interested in like black revolutionaries and some communism, which is like a little point of discussion at one point.
The main thing he's teaching in the beginning of the movie too, or well throughout the movie, but the main thing he's teaching is like revolutions and like what else would you call it? Like I don't know, overturning societies.
Yeah.
In different ways. So I think that's, that's tied to America and the civil rights movement. It's tied to communism in different countries.
Yeah.
So I think it links to all that stuff.
Yeah. So I think he's like a person who comes from a middle-class family, but he chooses not to be in that environment. Just based off what the movie gives us, I think. I
don't know if I 100% agree. I think maybe he could have wound up in that area because of his habits. You know what I mean?
Yeah, possibly.
It could be more organic than that, I think. But, that's one thing I like about the movie, You fill in the blanks yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's a few times where the dialogue is, like, a little... What's the word?
And also, living in that environment also helps him feed his addiction.
Yeah, or addictions.
Or addiction perhaps. As well. So I think those two things, for me at least, I think kind of go hand in hand.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Sure. But what the crap were we talking about?
And I don't know if we even mentioned, but he is addicted to crack. As well as cocaine. Crack cocaine.
My word.
If we mention that, yeah.
My word.
Yeah, he's a crackhead.
When I saw that, I guessed. I clutched my pearls when I saw that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's an interesting little character.
Yeah.
Because he's clearly a smart guy, and he's a very caring man.
Oh, for sure.
But he just likes to sip a bit of the crack.
Yeah, he sips the crack.
Yeah, sip a bit of the crack.
Puts in a blender.
He cleans off his nice glass table with some Windex.
Yeah.
Immediately sprawls out some cocaine on it. And snorts it up.
But yeah, that opening scene is him, like, it looks like he's, hasn't slept.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I want to say that, too. They do a very, very good job, Ryan Gosling, making him look like he has not slept,
kind of the makeup
for days.
And stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not even...
I don't even know if it's... I guess there's probably an element of makeup to it.
I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember, does he have bags?
Actually, he didn't sleep for 2 weeks before filming, so...
He's literally me.
Yeah.
But he always has a bit of a... Like a grimy, like, coating of like, grease or sweat or whatever. I don't know if he always has bags. Does he have bags?
Yeah.
But yeah, he has like that, and he always looks a little like pale and greasy.
And he's like unkempt.
And most people don't really look like that in the movie. Even the drug dealers and shit.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the most disheveled looking character.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's a teacher, but he don't look like no teacher I ever saw. Which maybe props to my school district. I don't know, but.
Well, yeah, like I said, this is in the inner city, so.
Yeah. Bro needs to learn to straighten his tie out.
No, they can't do
Stop
that.
rolling up his sleeves. You're right. You're right.
But yeah, he has... We assume, anyways, it looks like he hasn't slept. He's been up night. He's on a... What do they call it?
A bender?
Yeah, he's on a bender. What do the kids call it?
What do the kids call that dang thing?
Yeah, so... and then we see him going to school. So the opening lesson, I guess, where they're talking about history... And just his lesson throughout the whole movie kind of feed into the narrative. Do you agree?
I do agree.
Okay, yeah. So the opening...
I even have... Okay, this is a little hook.
Yeah.
This might be a little late for a hook.
That's okay.
For the video. But...
If you're like 20 minutes in, you're still like, I need something to...
I need a hook. Like, why am I going to listen for the full 2 hours? Okay, so there is in film, Evan, in storytelling, especially in visual storytelling, there's sometimes a physical change to denote, Evan, an internal change or conflict.
Okay.
And does that occur in this film?
Are you reading... Do you have like some note cards or something?
No. But does that occur in this film, Evan?
A physical change?
Does it? Don't spoil it, it's the hook.
Maybe.
Don't spoil it, it's the hook.
Possibly. A physical change?
Interesting.
Well, at the very end.
No, don't spoil it. It's the hook.
Well, I'm trying to think, like, is there something that happens in, like, the middle of the movie, but...
I mean the Band-Aid.
Oh.
But we'll get into it later.
I was thinking about the very end, where he's, like, clean now, and he's, like, shaved.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure, that's, like, that counts. But I mean the Band-Aid.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a few different things, Evan, that are going on with the Band-Aid that maybe we can talk about.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
It's an American flag.
The hook. The hook. Evan, that was the hook. All right, we'll get back to it.
But yeah, his opening lesson, he's talking about history. And he kind of...
He is a history teacher.
Yeah, he is a history teacher. And he kind of mentions what history is. There's two things, change and opposites. And of course, those are two things that both feed into the themes of the movie.
I should have Googled dialectics or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, I don't really know too much about it, so I can't speak. I read about... Does it have to do with opposites? And it does. So, there you go. But I don't know too much about it either. And yeah, but he's writing a children's book about it. But anyways, the beginning, you don't need to know anything about that. He's talking about how history and kind of like two opposites kind of opposing each other until one wins out.
Yeah.
And
and all the kids. You know, the one thing I really like about him too is he's a great teacher. He has a great rapport with his students.
He's kind of the cool teacher.
He's a bit of the cool teacher. He's a bit of the teacher that gives you a little bit of crack.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a cool teacher, and he's very personable with his students.
Yeah.
And he's
what was interesting to me is so Ryan Gosling was, when it came out, I assume when he filmed it he was probably 25, but when it came out he was literally 26 or about to turn 26. Anyways, I felt like he's playing somebody older than his actual age. I don't know if I felt like the character was like probably like in his 30s.
Early 30s.
That I don't know, did you feel that same way? Because I was like, oh, Ryan Gosling was very young when he did
If I had to guess, you know, like, not obviously we know literally his age during filming, but if I met that guy, I'd be like, yeah, you're like 29.
Yeah.
You know?
And another thing about that, though, is like he also mentions about, well, there's a one scene where he talked to a parent who's like, oh yeah, my daughter,
leaving the basketball game.
Is now in college.
Oh no, the bar.
Yeah,
that's what you mean. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, oh well, he's very young. So it's like that'd have been like, that's what I'm like, yeah. So I feel like he's playing older.
Yeah.
Than his actual, probably,
especially that one.
Yeah.
Because he had a student in his middle school that like a parent comes up and is like, hey, like my student or my kid liked you as a student, and you were
and now she's majoring.
Majoring history. Yeah, in college.
So it's like, well, let's say that's like 5 years that pass or something, because I think they're in 8th grade, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yes.
Well, yeah, because Dre is 13.
Okay, yeah.
So she would be an 8th grader. So
yeah. So it's like, oh, he would be like 20 and then teach. That don't really add up. So yeah, you know what I mean. So
yeah, so
I assume he's like in his 30s.
Yeah.
Where was I going with that? I don't really remember. But
well, you were just bringing up that the first thing you said was that he was 25 during filming, but you assumed that he was probably older.
Yeah, like the character. Yeah.
Well, the movie doesn't spoon feed you a lot, so it never tells us like, well, hey guys, like, welcome to my, this is my 10th year teaching.
Yeah.
There's not nothing like that happens really in the movie, which it's refreshing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because even really good movies or really good indie movies or whatever, there's no amount of like, you watch this movie and you feel like you're putting the pieces together a little bit.
Yeah.
It's more about the feeling.
Yeah.
That the film gives you.
True.
And the information provided.
And that kind of feeds into the visual style of the movie, I would say. The kind of day in the life look at it. You agree?
I would agree.
It's not very cinematic in a traditional sense.
Yeah.
But yeah. History, changes, opposites. Constantly opposing forces.
My word.
Kind of a thing in this movie.
Is it though?
A bit, yeah. I would say so.
Is it?
I mean, I would say so. Maybe.
One thing I thought was interesting is that
change.
Yeah.
And of course, our two main characters, they're opposites because they're in this. I think it's in the same scene, but he's like, "Hey, tell me opposites or whatever" to the students.
Yeah, and they're like me and you.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, you're right, teacher student."
Yeah. You and I.
You and I.
That's what he says. You and I. And well, him and Dre are, of course, kind of polar opposites. I mean, she's a child, he's an adult. She's black, he's white, boy, girl. They come from, I assume, different classes. Like, she's probably more lower class, whereas he comes from kind of this educated middle class family. I think that's why that scene is very important, the one with his family, because it's like, oh, you kind of understand where he came from.
kind of solidifies him even further from Dre's character.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like you could that scene doesn't change much overall in the narrative of the movie. The one with his family. I mean, I think there's a few important things that happen there, but I think that piece of information that it gives us is very important. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just further characterizing.
Yeah.
Him
Yeah.
And through his environment.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I don't know. Where are we going with this?
So when I watched this movie, I will say I cried at the end of this movie.
Oh.
I thought it's a wonderful movie. I didn't even cry at the very end, but I cried. I think it's Dre's mom goes up to her towards the end of the movie. Before she goes to see the teacher at the very end, or something like that. But anyways. It's a well-crafted story. It's a well-crafted movie. But it's pretty hard to... It's not like Star Wars, where you're like, okay, C-3PO and R2-D2 crash on the planet. Then they find Luke, and then Luke finds Ben, and then Ben takes them to the cantina, and the cantina... It's not like that, you know? It's very, like I said, kind of emotion-driven. And you get these little hints, like you said, like about meeting his family. It says, okay, like that kind of... gives further context to compare him to Dre. But it's not like, oh, well, that's going to send him here and this is going to send him here. So maybe...
Yeah, because it's very day in the life, like we mentioned, kind of.
Maybe this would be a good movie to be kind of nebulous and we can just go through interesting points of view of different parts of the movie.
Oh, sure.
If you wouldn't mind.
Where do you want to kick it off? Even though we're 30 minutes in, it's not much of a kick. Our hook. The hook. 30 minutes in.
The hook. Don't worry about the hook. We'll come back to it. Well, no, I guess just as they occur to us. So
that was a good way to put it, by the way. I didn't really think about how it's very emotion driven. The movie.
Yeah,
that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah,
it's kind of a vibe.
It's a bit of a crapping vibe. One thing I really appreciated. This is kind of just a general thought, but I like that there's no violence in the movie.
Oh no,
that kind of I like that.
I was gonna say, you know what's interesting? I feel like the movie kind of. So there's the scene where he kind of confronts Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes in the complete opposite direction that you would expect.
Well, because Anthony Mackie's character, he's slick.
Yeah, he is.
He's a slick son of a bitch. So one thing there's a really interesting part with this character. Mm-hmm. So throughout the movie, Anthony Mackie's character, we haven't really talked about Anthony Mackie's side of it. So Dre, who's the main student character, is neighbors with him.
Yeah.
And
they have some history.
Dre's older brother used to work for Anthony Mackie's character, which we won't be using the character's name.
What was his name?
We call him Falcon.
The Falcon.
No, I'm just playing.
It was Frank, wasn't it?
It is Frank. You're right.
Yeah.
So Anthony Mackie, Frank, he basically got Dre's brother caught up and sent to jail.
Yeah, yeah. And he didn't rat him out.
And he didn't,
even though he could have.
No, sir. So Frank is kind of throughout the movie courting Dre to be his new courier.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming is what...
I didn't mean to laugh.
It's not funny. This little girl is being forced into illegal activity.
There's actually... Yeah, there's one... I'm getting ahead of myself, but the scene where she delivers it to him, very disturbing.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, yeah.
That is heartbreaking.
Yeah, yeah.
The way he looks at her,
I know,
it's devastating. It's devastating. Watch the fucking movie. But the scene I was thinking of, right, when he's still courting her to kind of try and get her to be his courier.
Yeah,
he takes her to, and he's very pushy man. A couple of very pushy men pulling this little girl around.
For sure.
But anyways, he takes her to get a burger. He kind of,
he's grooming her.
He's grooming her to be a drug deliverer.
Yeah,
and he brings her to the diner, and they're eating at the diner, and he kind of brings up oh, your brother, we
used to work together.
There's a lot of good subtle dialogue like that in the movie. They do it later with the teacher with vaguely bringing up the drugs, but they don't bring it up, which we can talk about that too. But I don't know, it's very cleverly done. And then it's just so true to life because he's like, oh, your brother was working at this age, I was working at this age.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I don't want to do that. And he was like, well, I used to work at this place.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he plays it off so well. And she's like, wow, really? So he's so slick about it. He plays it off. And then, what's his name? Dan, the teacher, he's like the opposite, where Dre is kind of the slick one.
Yeah.
Which, so there's the scene, the pivotal scene, Evan, where Dre stumbles upon
in the bathroom
her teacher, Dan Dunn, smoking crack in the bathroom.
Yeah. Very good scene.
Great scene.
Ryan Gosling very good in this scene.
Great scene.
Yeah.
And then later in the movie, so Dre's father is kind of absent, and her mom is working, like 12-hour shifts and
at a hospital.
Crazy stuff. So she's kind of left at school alone sometimes, and she sometimes doesn't have a ride. So Dan Dunn will be a nice teacher, and he'll drive her home, and or a nice coach as well.
Yeah, yeah. But it is that moment where, after she catches him, that kind of when they become closer.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's after the basketball game.
Yeah.
Where he kind of freaks out because the ref is calling bullshit plays, or the ref isn't paying attention, and he gets very mad and he punches a wall with his hand. And then Dre is like,
well, that's later. I don't know if you.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, I am talking about later.
Okay.
So he punches his hand out of anger, and then he gives her a ride home after the game anyway, and then they're kind of talking and. Dan, the teacher is like, oh, well, you should, there are other ways to handle anger besides just punching people. And then Dre is like, oh, like you do? And then it gets, super serious.
Yeah.
And Dan thinks she, acknowledged him doing crack and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, I was talking about the punching the wall, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if she played that off or if she really did mean punching the wall.
Well, no. Did she say that right after the punch? But anyways, no, I agree. I agree with your overall point though. She's oh, it seemed like she was referencing.
Yeah, because she basically says oh, you should have punched the ref. It would have felt good or whatever. And he's like, that's not the way to handle your anger. And then she's like, oh, like you do.
Yeah.
I should handle it like you handle your anger.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's after
sure.
the game. So I don't know. She's kind of slick in this similar way to Frank there.
Yeah.
I think.
And that kind of reminds me of another. Not that it's slick, but it kind of reminds me of another kind of weird moment like that when
realistic dialogue.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
when she asked him oh, what does it feel like when you smoke?
That's
and kind of another moment of silence. He's like, why the fuck you? He doesn't say why the fuck are you asking me that, but he's like, you get that vibe from him.
It's interesting too because it kind of scales up, or it kind of escalates. I mean, where in the car that she kind of takes it back. But then later, she's locked out of her house, and he kind of looks after her for a while, and they go back to his apartment.
Yeah. And
she kind of just, boldly asks him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really want to address it at all, which I thought was wacky.
It was wacky.
That was a bit wacky. Evan, I'm going to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Why do you think in that moment, and I want you to dig deep here.
Oh, okay.
Why do you think in that moment he doesn't want to say anything? He doesn't say the truth about it. He doesn't say...
When she asked him that question?
Yeah, he doesn't answer with the truth. He doesn't answer with a lie. He doesn't say, well, no matter what I think of it, please just stay away from it. He doesn't say anything. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think it's kind of to the last thing you were saying. Because I feel like when she's acting that, it's she's curious about it. And at that point, he already knows about her kind of...
relationship with Frank.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think he's because we see throughout the movie, even though, he's involved with this, he does not want her to get caught up in that at all. So I think it's the way she's acting, it's she's curious, she wants to know. You know what I mean? Oh, what is that? Well, obviously, but it's a childlike kind of thing. You know what I mean? What is it?
It's kind of oh, if you're asking about it, that's a bad sign.
Yeah. Exactly. No. Yeah. And that's how I felt about it. And also, I think it probably because he's ashamed also.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, that's what I took from it.
Good answer.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I guess you run the risk of muddying the waters no matter what you say.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just mush up your little fucking sweet potatoes. What is she doing? Mashing up sweet potatoes?
I thought it was tomatoes.
Tomatoes, sure.
Yeah, because he's making spaghetti.
Oh, okay.
He makes spaghetti on his little date.
His spaghetti.
Yeah. On his date with that other teacher.
He has a lot of dates that go very well.
Yeah.
Without fail, every date. Every time he interacts with a woman, it goes very well.
Yeah.
Well, you want to talk about his love interests. Because that is a portion of the film.
What, do you mean his initial? Or the one?
All of them.
Okay. Well, yeah, because So at the beginning of the movie, after the first basketball game coach or whatever, we see his like ex is back or whatever. She leaves him a voicemail earlier in the movie. Yeah, Rachel. And we can only assume that they probably were both doing drugs, I think, because she mentions the program. Mm-hmm. Again, the movie doesn't give you very much. It doesn't. What happened between the two of them, you're given very little information about. But you know that she was in the program. That's what she calls that. So I assume that was rehab. I don't know.
Well, it definitely was. Yeah, because they bring it back a couple times.
Yeah.
Because what does he say later? Oh yeah, he said
you were able to change, but not me.
Well, later too, he says to who does he say
and
to?
Again, change. Ooh,
he says like, "Oh, my ex-girlfriend is getting married." And if she can do it, maybe I can, or something like that.
I can't remember.
So I feel like that also implies like, oh, we were both addicts, and she was able to change, but I wasn't.
Yeah, and he says like, oh no, I can't change. To her anyways. He's like, yeah, you were able to change, not me. And again, change is a theme of the movie. History, change.
Oh my
god. Opposites. Yes.
My god.
But yeah. So I was like, I assume they were both doing crack, and again. That, unless it was like when they were teenagers, this again kind of tells me that he's probably playing older than, I don't know if you feel the same way.
I agree.
Just the fact that he has all this history, you know what I mean?
He has more history than a 25-year-old would have, probably. Yeah. Well, especially for the work thing.
Yeah,
you know, being a teacher, that's, you'd be in your, like, first year teaching.
Yeah.
If you were 25.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he has his ex-girlfriend, and then before he goes to see his ex-girlfriend, he goes out with two random bitches as well.
Well, no, he's like at a club or something, and he meets them.
Well, he's still chilling with two random bitches.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't like he was going out to meet up with them. It's like he met them while he was at the club. Yeah, sure. or bar, wherever he went.
And I like that scene a lot, too, because... they're partying or whatever. Mm. They're drinking, they're smoking and whatever, which sounds good to me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they're partying, and he's kind of trying to explain his job.
Yeah.
And that was really well written.
It was.
The way that they kind of brush him off, but in a way that's like, oh yeah, we get it. Like, yeah, you're a great teacher, whatever.
Yeah.
But they clearly don't get it.
No, yeah.
That
happens a couple of times.
Written and performed very well.
Yeah, that happens a couple of times. Because there's another chick he meets at a bar or something. He starts explaining. I forgot exactly what to her, but it's like, oh, she kind of like, oh, whatever, I don't care. Yeah, you know what I mean. And then it's what's interesting is the one like serious kind of date he goes on, and that goes well with the other teacher. She will probably be more interested in hearing that kind of side of him, but he kind of pushes her to he like kind of blocks her off.
Well, I don't know. He treats her pretty good.
No, he treats... Yeah. Okay, that was it. But like, after their night together or whatever, she's kind of like, oh, what are you doing today? And he's kind of like, I gotta write my book, leave.
Yeah, he's
like, Jesus Christ.
He's a bit afraid of... And plus, the next scene, which I guess I don't know when we're gonna... That's a whole big thing.
Yeah.
But the next scene with her, too, kind of implies he's not interested in pursuing a deeper relationship with her. So... It's weird. Yeah, it's like a self-destructive thing where he's pouring himself out to these girls at this bar
who don't give a shit.
Who clearly don't give a shit, but then he wants to like distance himself and use his coworker.
Yeah, exactly.
That he could build a stronger relationship with if he wanted to.
And because she even knows that he's writing a book, and she asked him about it, so clearly she's interested. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, kind of a self-destructive thing. Maybe he does it on purpose because he was hurt so badly in his last relationship. So,
perhaps.
Who knows?
I could relate to that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, human experience.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Human experience. But yeah. So, Daniel Dunn.
Daniel Dunn, no less. I said no less so many times in the Catch Me If You Can review.
Did you really?
Yeah, and
I didn't notice.
I was listening to it and I was like, shit, let me not say that again.
Well, you said it, so...
Well, I said it
fired.
once, so...
Fired from this podcast.
Jeez.
JK.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. So I guess you want to talk about Dre a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I guess we get, back it up a little bit, right? So Dre, like we said, Dre is... the main student character in the film. Very, very well acted and well written.
I agree.
And I think it's very hard to write a child character that's smart. In my opinion. Mm-hmm. Evan, I don't know if you agree with that. Do you agree?
What do you mean by that? That's smart.
Because you can...
I don't know, like Baby Genius.
For example...
that was like a classic.
For example, Evan.
Yes.
Okay. Wrinkle in Time.
Wrinkle in Time. I didn't see it.
One of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Also, terribly written smart child character.
Okay.
Where they just talk like a gay, smarmy adult. Mm-hmm. Like a Joss Whedon character.
I Raise You Baby Geniuses.
I Raise You Baby Geniuses. Well, that's on a whole... another playing
No,
field.
I'm joking, but I continue.
That's on a whole nother... That's on the... what is that thing called?
The Awesome Scale.
Yeah. Like every 10 years, like every country votes on like 100 movies to put...
Like Sight and Sound?
Yeah, it's on the Sight and Sound list. Baby Geniuses 2, specifically.
Part 2, yeah.
Part 2. But yeah, it's very easy, I think, for adults to write a smart child character as like just an adult that's like smarmy and what's the word, like, you know, a bitch or whatever. But she's written like a kid first, and then she's written as like a smart kid, which I really appreciated. Like, there's one moment that clearly shows that she's interested and kind of digesting what she's being taught in class. When she asks her mom about, I can't even remember the name, but like she's like, oh, remember this? Have you heard about this?
Oh yeah, I forgot who it was.
Guy?
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, he's fasting like Gandhi used to do, where it means he doesn't eat for 30 days.
Yeah.
Like, could you not eat for 30 days, Mom?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really clever the way she's written, and also like the scenes where she's interacting with Daniel Dunn. You know, she's like, what does she say when she gets mad at him later?
She calls him an asshole.
Yeah,
and he called her a bitch.
She calls...
I was like, damn, you don't need to be calling your student a bitch.
One thing I loved about that moment, though, is I was like, this is like, they are friends.
Yeah.
Like, they're clearly on a completely even playing field.
Yeah, because in that part, he tells her, like, hey, I'm your teacher, leave me alone. We shouldn't be friends anymore.
Yeah.
We're not friends.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not your friend. You don't see any other students walking up to my car and talking to me. And she's like, fine, be alone, asshole.
Yeah.
I don't, because it's great that she's written like a kid, but she's still smart. That's not easy to do. And it's not easy to perform, Evan. So, despite her lacking filmography, you know, kudos to the actress.
Yeah.
She did a great job in this movie. And yeah, that was the moment where I was like they really are like, this is normal in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
It's very easy when you're writing like a non-familial child-adult relationship to have it be creepy. It never comes across that way.
There is one part.
Oh, for
me at the dance.
That was a little weird.
Yeah. I was like...
That was a little weird.
Yeah. And I feel like it kind of acknowledged that being a little weird.
Yes.
A little bit. But
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the dance, but I felt like he was trying to, like, just get her to go dance.
Yeah.
But there is, like...
And also, I think we're not... Again, the movie doesn't spoon feed you information, so... I think she kind of develops a crush on him. Remember the scene where she's like, oh, like... Because she's very tomboyish, but there's a scene where she kind of, like, puts her hair down and tries the makeup on after he finds out he's going to have that date or whatever. And he was in her...
I didn't even think about that.
That's what I thought. It's kind of like, oh, she maybe was developing a crush on him.
No, I think you're right, but I didn't think about
That's
that.
what I had thought in that part.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't, like, go anywhere with it too much, but...
And there's also the scene where, I don't know, they're talking about him. They're talking about, like, dating and boys and the teachers.
And they're like, oh, is he married? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was honestly, like, well-written kid dialogue as well. Because they were like, no one wants to date his ugly ass. That was funny.
But, but I think that was, like, part of the whole opposites and chain thing also, because it's like, oh, he kind of helping her break out of her shell a little bit, you know, be more like a normal teenager girl, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if it was just through her kind of developing a crush on him. I don't know. That's how I took that part anyways.
But yeah, there is, like, the scene at the dance Well, so if you don't know, also, that dance isn't like a huge scene or anything. It's kind of a small scene.
Yeah, yeah.
But he kind of just takes her out to the dance floor, spins around a little bit, and then he stays dancing with her like a little too long.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he leaves.
And a little too close.
And a little too close.
Yeah.
And the way it's framed, too, because it's like the whole frame is almost all Ryan Gosling's back. Mm-hmm. So it kind of makes you feel like, you know, he's like dominating her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he's like holding her, like,
yeah.
And he's like, you know, he's filling the screen and everything. It feels very like claustrophobic.
That was like, well, kind of weird.
Like maybe it's
I didn't like that.
That's how she feels or something in the moment.
And you see all the other students, they're looking.
Yeah, people are looking.
Yeah.
Not even just the students. I think the adults look too.
They're like, that ain't right.
That's not right. That was definitely his crack pipe. There's no way.
Don't crack at work.
Oh, that never comes back though. In the beginning of the movie, they find his crack pipe from the scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Where Fry catches him. Does it come back?
No, I was gonna say you kind of get a feeling that like they suspect something of him.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't acknowledge the crack pipe. Though,
is that but I'm saying that could be maybe part of it because they're like asking him like there's one teacher who kind of you see him a few times, the other white guy. He's like
he's reading the news sometimes.
Yeah, and he's asking him like, "Hey, is there something going on, Dan? Dan, like something you want to tell us?"
Yeah,
and after he had the Band-Aid on, as you
the
mentioned.
classic Band-Aid,
yeah,
which we will get back to. But he's that's the first time where he says anything that's not like the news. I think.
Yeah.
Where he comes up to him, he's like, "Oh, you know, if anything's going on, anything at all."
Yeah, and for all we know, maybe the female teacher we went the date on told them about what happened.
Oh yeah, about that. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, because he got the Band-Aid, of course, because he shows up at like 2 a.m., right the morning before they have to work.
Well, Evan, pause. Okay. So we talked about Dre a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
There's also, of course, her mother, who was an EMT, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we mentioned her brother that got, you know...
We did mention him. Yeah.
Got sent to jail because of Frank and everything and all that baggage. Okay?
Yes.
But we didn't mention the other teacher. You want to back up and talk about their first date?
Yeah,
and then we can get into their...
Well, we talked about it a little bit.
We can get into their second date.
Oh, their second date.
Okay.
That's certainly a good way it's not
it's
what
a
to call
YouTube-friendly
it.
way to put it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, when Dre first goes to his apartment, she kind of helps him cook a little bit. Or at least prep, I guess. And he's having the other teacher over for a date. And I think it's because he saw his ex.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt that way, but that's kind of how I felt.
That's what I felt when he went to the bar. That he has that on his mind in the movie.
Yeah. And this, when he asked her on days after he saw his ex was getting married or whatever, so it's like, oh shit. You know what I mean? So he has her over, and it goes well because he immediately gets laid.
They have dinner. They have a little bit of a corny joke.
Yeah.
And then they have sex.
Yeah.
Which is how it goes in real life.
And she tells him, Dre tells him, like, oh, women love jokes. And she said the nacho cheese joke. Which he's like...
What do they call cheese that's not yours, Evan?
Nacho cheese.
Haha.
Did that make you laugh?
Well, yeah. You could hear it on the...
Was it a genuine laugh?
Of course.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they, he pretty much immediately gets laid. They don't even eat the food.
Oh yeah,
it went well. Yeah, but she didn't want just a lay. She actually does like him because the morning after they're eating the spaghetti, and she's like, "So what are you doing today?" Which that's almost like basically asking him like, "Hey, you wanna hang out today?" Yeah, but he's like, "I gotta do my book.
I write book.
I write book. His children book about dialectics. What do you call it? Dialectic." I think that's what it's called, dialect. It's something with a D. But anyways, and she's like, oh yeah, she gets the idea. She gotta leave.
Yeah, so he said get out.
Yeah, he said get out. He hit it and quit it. And she leaves. And then later in the film, of course, he's had what even did happen that was like of course he's depressed throughout most of the movie, but something shitty again happened, and that's when he shows up there. Was it after he was visiting his family? Or does he have the Band-Aid already when he visits his family?
He did have the Band-Aid.
Okay, so that's before that. Mm-hmm. Well, something happened. I don't remember what.
What did happen?
No, he drank with Frank, so he was drunk.
I was going to say it was Anthony Mackie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess we can talk about that really quick. He shows up to Frank at one point and tells him, like, hey, stay away from Dre. And he's like, well, who are you to tell me that?
And he says, come inside.
Yeah, and they have a drink.
What do you make of the, sorry to, things keep, like, connecting back in my mind to scenes before it. So his cat dies, right?
Yeah.
Poor Daniel's cat dies.
Yeah.
And then he picks up the cat outside of Frank's house and tries to bring it inside.
Yeah.
Do you think that means anything?
He likes cats?
He likes cats.
Yeah. He's a lonely guy. He only got a cat.
I don't know, it's a good indication of him seeking comfort.
Yeah, that's
perhaps
what I mean.
In that moment, Evan.
He needs a pet cat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. He's just like me.
For real.
For real.
But yeah, he gets drunk with Frank after trying to tell
Probably more than drunk, probably.
Well, yeah. He gets shit-faced.
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably he, like...
Oh, you mean like he's
did, like, crack or whatever.
But it's possible. It's certainly possible, yeah. And you know what I was wondering? I feel like he might have known who Frank was already.
I think you're right.
Because we see the person who sells to him was hanging out with Frank.
Oh,
the Hispanic guy, yeah. He's at Frank's house in the scene where we first meet Frank. And then when he sees Frank for the first time in the movie, it's when he's at the basketball game cheering Dre on. And he's like, oh, who's that? So it's like...
Oh, right.
It's like, I feel like either he probably maybe already knew who he was.
Like through association.
Definitely say, like, he might have met him before, or he knew of him. Like you're saying, through his dealer. I just wanted to mention that really quick.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets drunk, but anyways, to get back...
And then, because Dre later also asks Frank, like, have you ever sold to Coach?
Oh, yeah.
And that was before she literally sells to him
he just says why. Mm-hmm. And that made me think, like, so they may have had some past interaction. We don't know.
Or at least same circle.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. So we don't really know for sure.
Of crackheads.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We don't really know for sure.
But anyway, so yeah, he tries... and that's one thing, too, that I mentioned. I like that there's no violence in the movie. Going to confront Frank wound up being a bad idea, but for a different reason.
Yeah.
Than just getting beat up, which in a similar dramatic movie probably just would have got beat up by those three guys that he's confronting. But Frank is slick.
He is.
He's a slick guy, and he handled it.
He did, yeah.
So I thought that was, I liked how that played out.
I agree.
It was more interesting that way.
Yeah, and he brings, he gets him drunk. And then, of course, he shows up to the woman's house. And he does try to force himself on her.
He does.
Yeah. And she punches him in the face.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool how she punched him in the face.
Well, okay, so that scene is a very weighted scene, Evan.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
But it kind of like... So she's kind of like subtly saying no at first.
Yeah.
And then she's blatantly just like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop it. Like, no.
Yeah.
And he keeps going.
He does.
I was like, Daniel, no.
Dan, no.
I said, Dan, no.
Yeah, I feel like that moment is kind of like... Because it's like... Throughout the most of the movie, he's like... I don't want to say he's a bad person, no. Because just being a crack... That doesn't make you a bad person, but, he's flawed.
He's a bit of a degenerate.
I wouldn't even say that. Like, degenerate, that has such a bad connotation. I just feel like he's a flawed human being. But in that moment, I feel like that's where it's like, oh, he's like, he does something like bad. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, oh shit. Like, you can't really like, empathize with him in that moment,
No.
Yeah. No. It's like, oh shit, he's just doing something he should not be doing.
Yeah. That hurt.
It did, yeah. Yeah.
Because you're also watching a character that you like.
Yeah.
He's a good teacher. He's a good... He's flawed, like you said, but he's a good man.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, throughout most of the movie, you can empathize with him, except for really in that moment. And then she, like, locks herself in her room or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry. He's, like, sitting at her door just saying, like, I'm sorry. I forgot what else he said.
He's recording a whole RNS podcast outside her door, talking to her.
And then he leaves.
But he's basically like, yeah, I'm, like, going to use the thing I found on your couch to, like, dry my blood and, like, clean it. And then, and he also says, like, oh, we had fun, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like, we had so much fun. like the other time. Yeah.
Like, did we? We just fucked.
Oh, jeez, Daniel.
Daniel Dunn.
You know what part I like, too? So after this terrible scene...
Yeah.
Is this when he goes to the parents? Shortly after this?
Yeah, well, it showed his school day the next day, and that's kind of where... They don't say it explicitly, but he either got fired or has to take a break.
Daniel Dunn?
Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah, because remember you see later...
the substitute.
Yeah,
you're right.
It's either a substitute or a new teacher. I don't know what.
Yeah. No, it is a substitute.
Okay, yeah. And like the principal's like, that's when he asks him, is something going on? And you hear in the teacher break room, they're like talking about him until he walks in, and then he has to talk to the principal. So you don't find out exactly what happened, but it's like he's either fired or he's like put on like a leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assumed he was not fired, but I guess it could go either way.
Yeah.
Because they don't address that, do they?
They don't tell you definitively. Yeah. And did you want to mention the Band-Aid?
Of course.
Yeah, because
the hook.
Yeah.
The classic hook.
Yes.
So Evan, in the scene where he attempts SA on that poor woman, on his coworker, on his beloved friend, she pops him in the mouth.
Yes.
Real nice.
Correct.
Real clean.
Correct.
In the mouth. Okay.
Correct, Mundo.
There's a nice cut below his lip.
Oh.
Doesn't he?
He does.
And then Evan, he winds up with a Band-Aid on his mouth.
Yeah.
And the Band-Aid has the a picture of the Stars and Stripes, the American flag on it. And it also happens to be located on his mouth.
Yes.
Evan, what do you make of that?
What do I make of that?
Do you make anything of that?
Well, of it being on his mouth or it being the American flag, both or all of that.
What do you think?
It's funny. I didn't really think too much about that Band-Aid at all until you mentioned that.
Well, the fact that Evan in a screenplay often or in a film, that's something that one takes note of. Is a physical change denoted by a character change.
That is true. That is true. That is true. I took the more obvious one, the one at the end, but you brought up an interesting. Is there anything I can make of it? Well, throughout the movie, we get these little interludes, if you will, of I'm just pulling this all in my ass.
Sure.
Right now, so I'm just gonna go for it.
Go ahead.
Throughout the movie, you get these little interludes of like the students talking about kind of like these like moments where like the American government were like fucking with either being like interventionist in like other countries or like
they mentioned them like overthrowing
hijacking
and killing
shit, yeah,
governors
or doing shit within their own
governments.
country.
Yeah,
like CIA doing shit.
Like the Milk, the governor.
Yeah, Harvey. That's what I mean.
Harvey Milk.
Yeah, just fucking with people and shit in other countries in their own country. Kind of going up opposing change, if you will, opposing the change that Daniel Dunn advocates for in history. Change, kind of putting Band-Aids on a problem. You know what I mean? The American flag being a Band-Aid on a problem rather than I don't know. Do you kind of get where I'm going with this?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I kind of pulled that out of my ass.
That's good. That's good. Okay. All right.
I don't know. What did you think of it?
No, but that's smart. Okay. Because it does go against change.
Yeah.
Trying to force certain. I do. I believe in the United States, Evan. I like the United States. I believe in the Constitution.
Yeah.
But there are certain old ways about going about things that I think the Band-Aid could symbolize.
Yeah.
In the same way that you're saying, and I think the Band-Aid of what I see is it's calling him out as a hypocrite a little bit. Because like you're saying, he's this advocate for change. He wants to teach change. But he himself, Evan, is stuck in a circle.
Yes, yeah.
And he says that change is not a circle, Evan. It's a spiral.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not a circle. And he's kind of
No. Him and Dre are both kind of stuck in the circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, it's like she's on the path to end up like her brother. And kind of like, the classic, like, kind of I don't know what to call it, but like the inner city kind of problem. You know, they say that a lot about like, you know, the hood or whatnot. It's like a cycle, like a violent cyclical thing.
There's a lot of things like drugs, that where it's like
things like that.
Growing up, you tell someone that's what they're going to be, and then
exactly,
that's what they do.
And then it's like he's stuck in this self-destructive circle.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, you know, I asked you that, and I don't know, I didn't have an angle. So, but I do think there's something about, you know, like mouth, like the First Amendment, the U.S. flag, him being a hypocrite in that way of like what he's teaching, what he's preaching, he's not practicing.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I think for sure that's definitely a part of it. And there's one kind of speaking to the cyclical thing versus change, like organic change, or one thing winning out over the other. There's one of those interludes I was mentioning where the student talking about the U.S. government overthrowing a democratically elected president in somewhere in Latin America. I forgot what country it was. And then they mentioned how like the director of the CIA or something was like, "Oh, we can't leave it to the people to decide." You know.
The choice is too important for those
exactly for
Croatian voters or whatever, whatever country it was. Sorry to just name it right.
But yeah, exactly. That's what he said. It's like, for them to decide themselves. And that kind of goes against the change that we're mentioning. So that's what I'm kind of getting at with the Band-Aids. Like the American way or flag, whatever. It's like just putting Band-Aid on a problem rather than... I don't know. And I don't know if that makes much sense, but I'm trying to spitball here.
I think the most, what's the word? The most vanilla interpretation of it, or the simplest, is that, you know, he has that whole speech about the man, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And in that moment...
That was a good scene, by the way. I liked it.
I liked it, too.
Yeah, it was funny when they're like, well, aren't you the man? He's like, oh, yeah, I guess I am.
And he was like, hey, wait a minute. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, but you're white and you work for the government. Yeah. He's like, oh, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
But then that ties into the Band-Aid thing, I think, too, in that scene. Because I think, like I was saying, the most, like, normal interpretation, I think, of the Band-Aid is, like, he's, like, the man oppressing somebody. Yeah. And then he gets punched in the mouth. Which is like his whole thing is that he's like a writer and he's like a speaker and a teacher and it's like in the mouth with the so you know I could write
it kind of marks him as one of them with the flag on his face.
That too. That too. Yeah. It's like a stamp in that moment. Yeah. Interesting. True. No, very interesting. And it's a POC no less.
Like I said, I really didn't think much about that at all until you brought it up. So
I think if it was like, I wouldn't put it past this movie to just make it a skin tone Band-Aid. And maybe still have that meaning there. But the fact that it's an American flag one, I was like, all right, like that's something.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I'm not the guy to write a BuzzFeed article about it, but it's something. So I don't know. I thought it was really interesting.
No, I agree. Yeah, I didn't make much of that. So thank you, Dylan.
Oh, of course.
Thank you for what did Jody say? Thank you for your creativity.
Thank you for your creativity, Dylan. You're welcome. Yeah, we're very creative.
Yeah.
Me specifically.
Yeah. Where were we going with that though?
No, that was the hook.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
That's the end of the episode.
There you go.
No, but I wanted to speak, I guess, a little bit more on the cyclical thing, I guess. Because, as I mentioned, Daniel talks about... Well, there's also the lecture he has about, like, night and day. Mm-hmm. And, of course, that's a cyclical thing. I don't know, where am I going with this? But history is trying to break that cycle. And then that's what the movie's all about, is him and... I feel like it kind of... So at the beginning he talks about how it's opposites and one winning out over the other. I feel like what ends up happening though is more it's like there ends up being kind of an equilibrium between the two.
I disagree.
Oh, okay.
I disagree.
No, tell me.
And I think you're a fucking hack fraud.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Okay.
Because I feel like they both kind of help each other.
Redo your movie. What do you have? Your minor in film?
My minor?
Redo
it's major, but yeah.
Did you major in film?
I did, yeah.
What did you minor in?
Journalism.
Journalism.
Yeah. So see? I'm on the podcast talking about movies.
Hey, there okay, you know what? Give that. Wait, let's do that for the mic.
Okay.
All right,
let's do it hard. Nice.
Close enough. Good one, Evan.
Yeah.
That was us. Okay. What the fuck are we talking?
You said I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
Yeah, no, tell me.
So we're talking about
the opposite. The student one winning out over the other.
The student and the teacher.
Yeah.
As opposites, which they set up.
Yeah.
In the movie as opposites in the kind of dialectics.
Yeah.
Sense. So I think she wins.
Okay.
I think the student wins.
I think she does win out more than he does, but I still do think it's a bit of both.
I don't think...
And it's funny, this is exactly what I'm thinking about. I was thinking it's like... Because I was thinking like, oh... After I watched the movie yesterday, I was thinking like, oh, does she win out then? But I feel like it's a bit of both. But no, I want to hear what you say.
I think he does help her. He's a good teacher. Yeah. He's a good person. He's a good... I don't know, father figure. He's a good mentor, whatever. But I don't think he's like, in terms of like separate it from the terminology of like student and teacher and everything. Them as two characters. I think what she does potentially, I guess it's up for interpretation. But in my opinion, the way I interpret the ending is I see it as her helping him get clean. You know, sobriety's not that simple.
Yeah.
But in terms of the movie, I think what we're supposed to take away from it is that she set him on the right path. And, you know, she went out of her way to help him.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, ultimately I'm seeing that as a positive and that it would work, hypothetically.
Yeah.
And that she actually did help him. So I think in that way, she... Like I said, in real life, sobriety is not that simple, right? But I think in... the movie, I think she does break the cycle for him.
Yeah.
Or helps him break it.
Yeah.
But I think the difference between him affecting her is that, like, she's not an adult. She's not grown. Her path isn't set in stone or anything. She's not in a cycle, per se. She's just trying to figure out who she's going to be. And I think he helped her maybe grow and learn, but she was already a smart kid before she met him.
Yeah.
And I think without him, I don't think she would have stayed dealing drugs. I don't think she would have fallen into that path. I think he helped her, but I don't think he broke like a cycle for her in that way.
Yeah. I was going to say, so we see she starts delivering for Frank.
Yes.
And for me at least, I think it's like, with that moment, she decides she doesn't want to do that anymore. When she delivers it to him, as we mentioned, a very heartbreaking scene. Very sad. He looked like he was living it up, though. He was having a good time. He had, like, some random dude with, like, 2 hookers.
They're just taking pictures with, like, shitty old cameras from, like, 2004.
I was like, Daniel, I didn't know you get it down like that.
And the funny... Okay, it's not, like, it's a very
hilarious moment.
It's a very sad scene. But it is funny to me that they're, like... in these, like, goofy bras and, like, these underwear, and then the other guys are like, hey, like, yeah, that's so funny, like, or not fun, I don't know. They're like, yeah, let's take pictures of you, you sexy bitch. Yeah. And then he's, like, just, all of them are kind of normal.
Yeah.
And then he's just, like, strung out.
In the bathroom.
Laying on the bathroom floor, laying against the wall, like, pitifully, like, holding his hand out for crack.
Yeah, yeah.
From his student. I don't know, it's a kind of a juxtaposition, too, between... Like, not that they can handle it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Were they even ordering crack? Maybe they were just drinking and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it kind of juxtaposes them versus him, where it's like, well, he has a serious...
They're kind of partying, whereas him, it's like, he has a serious problem.
Yeah.
No, for sure. But I could say, though, it's like, and I get what you're saying, it's like, she's not, whereas he's fully in that cycle already, she isn't, because she's still a child, and we only really see her dabble in selling for Frank. It's not like she's on the streets, been doing that for a year or two, you know what I mean? So I get what you're saying, but I feel like, definitely at least here, because like you said, maybe, for all we know, she could have been like, actually, never, fuck this, I don't want to do that. But it might have been the opposite. She might have kept doing that, unless she had that moment with him. And that's what I'm going to say. I feel like, it's not like her where she goes out of her way to try and do something positive for him. It's like kind of through a negative, him teaching her. Does that make sense?
You're right.
What I mean? But I could say, I feel like, because Frank, we see he's a drug dealer, but he's clean. He doesn't look like he smoked crack himself or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. and he has a house. He has a wife. Like, he seemed pretty well to do. He's
got his bros.
He just makes money off doing drugs.
He got his bros and his brews. And I think this might be a stretch, but like I feel like the peppermints thing, like we don't really see him drinking. We don't really see him doing any drugs. We see him eating the candy.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like, oh, that's like his vice.
Yeah.
Instead of.
Yeah, I agree.
And he offers it. He's like, oh, these are great. These shitty peppermints.
Yeah.
Like, which I thought that was pretty funny because those peppermints are shitty. Those big circle ones.
I like them.
Those are nasty.
I like them.
No, those are nasty.
I love peppermints. But anyways, I feel like through her relationship with him, she kind of gets like firsthand exposure to like what this does to a person. You know what I mean? Because like if you're just a drug dealer, you kind of you keep that like level of distance. You know what I mean? Your relationship with an addict is purely transactional. You know what I mean? Whereas with him. With him, it becomes like she has a personal relationship, and then she ends up having that transactional relationship as well. And then it's like when the two of them kind of collide, it kind of like, oh shit.
Yeah, like
I'm like helping him actively self-destruct by selling him drugs. You know what I mean? And I feel like in that way, he kind of helps her get out of that.
Yeah, like when you're forced to see kind of I don't know if you call it a victim. That's probably a whole like Facebook group on its own. I don't know if he's a victim or not, but. Like, to see him, to be forced to see someone you love in that position.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. And it's kind of similar to the scene where she finds him in the bathroom. I feel like those two scenes kind of mirror each other a bit. But it's like one is where it's that kind of personal relationship, and then the other one's the transactional. You know what I mean? It's like her finding him smoking crack and kind of helping because he's kind of like out of his mind, I guess. I don't know. He's like, oh, can you hold my hand? Like, he's fogged up. And then the other kind of moment like that is her actually selling it to him. You know what I mean? I feel like those two moments kind of have this weird mirroring of each other.
It is also kind of like she helps him at first.
Yeah.
And then she's bringing him what probably will push him over the edge into like where he was in the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he's like, oh, like I need water. And like those kooky like 2005 like like picture taken in their underwear, they're not gonna help him and give him water and stuff. They're not nice. Well, they might be nice.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like she's potentially putting him over to the point where he'd be like really sick.
Yeah, for sure.
And then she's leaving because she got the money.
Yeah.
And it's really But I think also another aspect of it is that she's like they mentioned that change and like what is it called like. Change and whatever, you get it.
I don't remember.
Whatever we were talking about.
Opposites?
History.
Yeah.
History and opposites and change are all affected by one event or one choice or one person getting the upper hand over the other.
Yeah.
Where I think she gets to make a choice. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't really make a choice towards her. And if he does, it's probably a bad one, I guess. Yeah,
that's kind of what I was saying. It's like,
well, not just
how he changes her. I mean, how she changes him is like through a positive action, whereas the other way it's like a negative action. And that kind of he also talks about yin and yang in one part, and I feel like that kind of feeds him with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that is true too. Because like you could see him as being the which one is the
I don't fucking know.
Which one's the black one with the white in it? Is it yin?
I don't know.
Okay, but you can see him as being like the negative with the positive in it, and her being the positive with the negative in it. Because she saves him, but she also sells him the crack. And he does the crack, but he also kind of... Obviously, he was her teacher in the background that she liked, but he also teached her or something. I don't know, so.
And you know... I feel like this is probably on purpose, but also him being like the black and the yin yang. Well, he's a white guy, and then she's
the black girl. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There you go.
Interesting. It's an interesting movie.
It is.
It's a very interesting movie. But I also think like the choice he makes, like the big choice, right, is when he goes to confront Frank, and that goes terribly.
Yeah.
You know, because he tries to essay his like work friend after that. And then he also winds up just being, like, fired or whatever. And he also winds up going and getting strung out.
Yeah.
And, like, you know. It's interesting.
It is.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And like I said, That's what I really like about the movie is that it goes against that trope about like the teacher, the perfect teacher teaching all these students.
Yeah, it's not.
It's kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's not The Blind Side.
Yeah, it's The Blind Side. Or like Stand and Deliver or some shit.
That's
yeah,
more accurate.
Yeah.
Yes, but the first way I ever heard of this movie, Evan, is a video essay. You could probably find it if you looked for it, but I don't remember what it was called. But it was a video essay about how this subverts those kind of movies, which is really what hooked me. I was like, oh, I'll watch that for sure, which we did watch it, and I did watch it.
Nice.
So thanks to that guy for making that video.
Thank you. We should link it I'll link it in the description.
Perhaps. But, yeah, it really lived up. It really lived up to that video essay, so thank you to that guy. But I would say that, like, for me, the core of the movie is, I guess, at least in terms of, like, comparing his teachings to what happens, I guess. The, breaking the system, which is kind of like the whole, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that kind of winds up culminating in, like, he gets more specific as the lessons go on.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, it's change becomes this, and that's, like, revolution and all that shit. And then, I see it as they break a societal convention, him and Dre. You know, because they even mention it outright in the movie, like, a couple times.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, he says it to her, Frank mentions it to her, where it's like, we're teacher-student, we're not supposed to, like, connect beyond that level.
Yeah.
But then that winds up making, saving him and enriching both of their lives.
Yeah, I agree.
And they are friends.
They are.
Despite what society will tell you.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's kind of the key connection I made to his teaching.
Yeah. And can I quote somebody's letterbox for you?
Evan, I suppose you can.
As I did in Catch Me If You Can.
I suppose you can, buddy.
Because I thought they made a good point. And, if somebody makes a good point, I like to build off that.
Yeah. Maybe just make a discussion about that.
Somebody wrote...
Give us their name.
I will. I'm opening it now. Whoever I. Simon is...
Oh, you don't know I. Simon?
He writes for TV and City.
It's I.H. Simon from YouTube.
It says I. Simon.
No, I.H. Simon on YouTube. Remember?
Well, no, I don't know who that
is.
It's
a joke from last week.
Oh.
Patrick H. Wallen.
Well, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a joke. That did not land, but that's okay.
I apologize.
No, it's alright. We can edit in a laugh later.
I. Simon... He wrote, not only feature one of the most realistic depictions of true loneliness, not loneliness in the literal sense, but in the sense that you feel like no one else out there really understands you. That's all I wanted to... They say some other shit, but that's the only part I wanted to mention about the movie kind of has loneliness in the sense that no one really understands you. And I feel like that is kind of a thing in this movie for not only Dan, but also Dre as well. I feel like they're both kind of outsiders in a sense, you know what I mean? And what you were saying about their friendship is like they both kind of find through each other like somebody, to connect to. Just in the fact that they're both like he doesn't really relate to the other teachers, his family, as we see, he can't really have a stable relationship apparently, and her we see she has friends, but we don't really get too much of that.
Mostly I think you can parallel the family because her mother, she obviously has a good relationship with her mother, but her mother is working like 12-hour plus shifts because she's an EMT.
Her dad is absent.
Her dad is an absentee. Like, I think it's implied he kind of recently became what's the word,
absent?
No,
I don't know.
Estranged.
Yeah.
He recently became estranged. Because she's like, oh, he didn't pick you up, and then like he's like gone for the rest of the movie, and he doesn't, And then the brother's in jail, of course.
Yeah.
Also. And I think she probably has okay relationships with the kids at school. She didn't.
Yeah. I wasn't saying like we didn't see. Well, we see the scene where they're all talking about like, oh, do you think he's married? Like,
that's funny.
they're like friends, but.
But really, it's the family thing.
Yeah, there's that, but it's just like they're both kind of outsiders, I guess.
Or lonely.
Or lonely, or
lonely.
Yeah, or lonely.
Well, Evan, can I maybe bring something up?
And perhaps. They kind of bond through that.
But then they find a connection.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't they?
Yeah.
Despite what society tells you is right or wrong.
Exactly.
You go talk to that kid.
Yeah.
You befriend that kid. You develop a strong relationship with that kid.
Yeah.
You bring that kid to your house alone.
Just don't let other people know about it. They'll probably look at you some kind of way.
That last part was a joke.
I mean, he does do that in the film.
That's the joke, but in real life, maybe don't do those parts. I mean, it worked out for them, but don't do it. But don't do it. But I wanted to mention Evan.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you brought that Letterboxd review up in particular because it brings something to mind for me, Evan.
Oh yes.
I feel like Ryan Gosling really likes that kind of subject matter.
Oh, for sure.
Like Blade Runner, Lars, First Man,
Drive.
Yeah. He really likes that.
He does.
I guess that's the Sigma blueprint.
Yeah.
I guess. So it makes sense.
You ain't wrong.
Interesting.
You ain't wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah, you ain't wrong.
The Gosling cinematic universe.
He always plays these outsiders. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Does he play an outsider in The Notebook?
I don't think so.
Not really.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a very long time, but damn it, I don't remember that.
Can we do a Gosling month?
Yeah.
Can we?
Do a Gosling year.
But we should. We should do a Gosling month.
We'll eventually do all his movies.
Yeah, I guess they'll come as they come. You know? But I just thought I didn't really make that connection until right now. It's a meme, like the Sigma meme.
Yeah.
And Sigma males are like, oh, they're strong loners and whatever. But it's like, it's true. Like, he plays that role in like every movie.
Yeah, for sure,
I guess, suppose barring The Notebook.
Barring The Notebook.
And that one movie with Steve Carell. Is that Gosling?
Yeah.
Right?
I can't remember what it's called.
No, he is a Sigma in that.
I guess.
But at the end, he changes.
Yeah.
But he is a Sigma in that.
He is a Sigma.
He is!
But, yeah. Oh, we didn't really mention the ending scene, because it feels like we're kind of wrapping up, but, the ending, after she's like, man, fuck you, Frank. She didn't say that, but she's like, man, I'm not going to hang out with you today, Frank, because I just sold to my damn teacher. And, of course, he's not at school. The substitute is there. So she shows up to his apartment. No, not at the apartment. She showed up at, like, the hotel he was at.
What's the scene? Is this at the end where his apartment's, like, empty?
I was going to say, she showed up at, like, the hotel. And then they kind of go to his apartment, and she kind of helps him clean up. And he shaves and everything.
There's one scene that I was like, oh, this is really good. I don't remember when it was. Maybe it was when he got a voice message. And then it juxtaposes that with, like, the apartment being empty. Maybe that was right before it shows him at, like, the crack apartment hotel.
I can't remember.
I don't know. I thought that, but I just wanted to mention that was a good scene. I don't remember when that was. But please, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, she, like, goes over to his apartment with him, helps him clean up, he shaves his face and everything, and it just kind of ends there with them sitting on the couch together.
They put down a couple of waters.
Yeah.
A couple of crisp tap waters.
Yeah, because that moment for both of them, where she sees him in the hotel, was kind of like we probably shouldn't be doing the things we're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like we're both slipping.
Yeah. Well, in that way, it's kind of like we were mentioning the positive and negative actions. In that way, it was kind of both negative. Because that was just an entirely bad moment altogether. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Probably worse for him, though.
No, for sure. Yeah. But yeah.
Great film.
That is the ending.
Great film.
They both, she said, fuck you, Frank. And then she goes helps him clean up. And
she should play Falconette in the MCU.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good movie. I quite enjoyed it.
It was a very good movie.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Dylan.
And I think it was one that I think was a little difficult to do on RNS. I think I probably, to really, really like do it justice, probably maybe watch it once or twice, or like watch it a second time, and like take notes.
Yeah.
But no one's trying to do that.
Well, I'm going to say, we never, as I
I
mentioned on RNS podcast before, besides our end of the year list, we never really do notes. We kind of just get here and just start talking.
I do notes occasionally, But like I said, too, like, this movie's not really, like...
I did like when we first started, and then after I did...
I remember distinctly doing it for Spider-Man 3, and then some other movies where there's something I'm like, oh, I don't want to forget this.
Yeah.
I'll take 1 or 2, but I'm never, like, sitting with a pen and a pad, like, during the whole movie.
Yeah.
That never... No, not really. But I think this movie, you could, like, dissect it. We could definitely dissect it even more. There's, like, different angles and different things I think you could do with it. Sure. So that's why I think it's very much worth watching. So even if you did watch this video and you haven't seen the movie still, there's a ton of stuff we didn't even talk about. The movie's not even that long.
Yeah, it's like an hour 40.
It's still like a dense picture.
For sure.
With a ton of things to see.
Please watch it.
So please do watch it. And you know, pay a bit of attention.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Sure.
Give it a solid chance. And like I said, free on YouTube.
It is free on YouTube.
The legal way.
The legal way.
Literally.
Like
you type in Half Nelson, and it's under YouTube movies. It says free HD, and you watch it. And you watch it.
Do you want to do fun facts, though?
I would love to do fun facts. I hope there's some good ones on there.
If there's not, I'm gonna be mad.
I'm gonna be peeved off as well.
Let's see. Fun facts. Did you know? Go. Dylan, did you know? Oh, there's only 14 fun facts. I'm not that surprised. I kind of didn't expect very many.
No, it's not fucking Avatar or something, but we'll see.
The film was shot in 23 days and finished 1 day ahead of schedule.
Good for them. Keeping it tight.
Good job.
Keeping it right.
Keeping it tight. They are. Was originally made as a short film titled Gowanus, I don't know what that is, Gowanus Brooklyn, which won an award at the Sundance Film Festival. Sharika Epps and Karen Chilton reprised their roles as Dre and Dre's mother. Matt Kerr, who plays the substitute teacher Mr. Light in this film, played Mr. Dunn in the original short.
Oh, that is a bit of a fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
Oh.
Ryan Gosling received, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, his first Academy Award nomination in the Best Actor category for this movie. There you go.
I'm glad this movie got that much love.
Me too.
It kind of doesn't feel like it even would have been nominated. It feels like it's a pretty small picture, you know?
Well,
good for them.
His performance was so outstanding, they had to nominate.
They
really had no choice.
They really had no choice.
And I agree. Rachel McAdams, of course, his co-star from The Notebook.
His co-star from Doctor Strange 3.
Yeah, because he, of course, will be in that movie. Came to visit the set during filming of the bar scene. Running low on bar extras, to help the producers out, Rachel hopped in to help the bar make the bar look busy. And her scene never made the final cut. There you go. The Dan Dunn character. Okay, this is kind of speak to what we were talking about before. The Dan Dunn character was originally written to be in his mid-30s. However, the filmmaker changed this to accommodate Ryan Gosling's age. Gosling was 25 years old at the time of filming.
I feel like they didn't accommodate the script
like we're saying,
for his age.
I thought it felt like he was supposed to be in his 30s. Maybe they changed it from mid-30 to like 30.
Yeah.
Or something like that, yeah. I definitely don't think he's 25 in this movie.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But, yeah.
And that's a credit to his acting as well.
Oh, of course.
Because you don't really see him as...
Yeah, I don't question him. I'm like, this dude's too young. No. I don't question it. That's kind of interesting, to bring up Spider-Man really quick. That Tobey Maguire was like that age playing Peter Parker. Yeah. And this like kind of the opposite.
Like a freshman year of college. Yeah. 25.
The film title we already talked about with them. According to the filmmaker commentary on the DVD, the film was shot handheld, except for a short sequence in Dan Dunn's apartment. The sequence in Dunn's apartment happens when he's not there, and it contains all static shots. The static shots were shot on a tripod.
That's the scene I was talking about.
Oh, because we kind of mentioned that though, how the movie was shot, because you can tell the whole movie's like shaky, so you can tell it's handheld.
But the scene that they're talking about that wasn't on handheld is the one I was talking about that I liked.
You should be like, well, you should have shot the whole movie like that. Fuck you, Ryan Fleck.
You stupid fucks.
They made Captain Marvel, so what do you expect?
Oh, they made Captain Marvel, so ease up a little bit.
The school used in the film, with the bright neon celery and key lime colored classroom doors, was painted by students from the school through an innovative non-profit youth development program called Public Color in NYC. Thank you.
That's called slave labor in other cities.
Yeah, they really did them like that. The directorial theatrical debut of Ryan Fleck.
And I wish it was his only one.
Yeah. Well, him and Anna Boden, I guess she only co-wrote this with him, but they ended up directing together. I think they co-directed
Captain Marvel.
No, not Captain Marvel. There's another movie called, I don't know if it was only him or it's both of them, called It's Kind of a Funny Story. And
Zach Galifianakis?
Yeah, and that was the first movie I saw by them, because I saw that, and I didn't even know it was...
Did you see it in theaters?
No. I saw it in middle school. A friend of mine lent me the Blu-ray. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's as good as Half Nelson, but I did enjoy that movie as well. I just wanted to mention that really quick.
I was actually kind of I've been looking lately at like, what other shit did they make? You know? I don't usually do that, but lately I have, and I saw that and I was like, it seems in the same vein.
Yeah, who else is in it? I forgot that the main guy, he was in some other shit. And Emma Roberts. Right? Yeah, and Emma Roberts is
it's that movie.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
It used to be on Netflix, and I almost watched it like a bunch of times, and I was like, nah.
Yeah, it's like Zach Galifianakis in the serious role. You know what I mean?
But the poster used to be the girl and the boy, I think, on Netflix.
I don't know. The poster I see has all three of them. But I assume it seems like a Netflix movie, so...
It sure does. Yeah. It seems like one of those ones that would just sit there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's good, though. It's good. Definitely worth watching.
Well, I'll check it out.
Gosling moved to New York for 1 month before shooting began, immersing himself in the life of the character. He lived in a small apartment in Brooklyn and spent time shadowing 8th grade teacher David Easton. There you go.
Good for you.
Yeah, it paid off, clearly.
You know what?
It was very convincing.
You're not kidding.
Yeah, so thank you, Ryan Gosling. Although it was produced and shot in New York City, the Toronto band Broken Social Scene, as I mentioned, is featured prominently on the soundtrack. Broken Social Scene even recorded some original music for the film.
Oh.
As I mentioned, yeah.
Thank you, BSS.
When on the subject, Ryan Gosling's character says, "It's just not cool to be a Nazi anymore, baby." Gosling played a neo-Nazi in the film The Believer. I have not seen that movie.
Also a Sigma male character?
Yeah. I have not seen that movie.
I haven't heard of that movie until that Kevin Smith video you sent me.
Oh, yeah.
He mentions The Believer.
Yeah. I had heard of it a while ago, but I have not seen it.
He's not like a main character in that, is he?
He is the main character.
He's the main character?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised I haven't really heard of it.
Writer duo Anna Boden.
Well, can I ask you real quick?
Yeah.
What does he believe in?
Oh, he's like a Nazi.
Nazi stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he's a Jew. Oh. He's a Nazi.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's like a twisted concept.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Huh.
I haven't seen it, though, so I don't know. Writer duo Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck and actor Anthony Mackie will later join the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as Ryan Gosling. We already mentioned this about the fucking MCU connection to this movie, so...
Yeah, those are well worn at this point. Do you mind, Evan, if I read?
Yeah.
This is our final trivia, the spoiler one.
Please.
And we mentioned this. Dan picking up the cat before going into Frank's house was unrehearsed. Ryan Gosling saw the stray cat during the filming of the scene and picked it up. Because Dan's cat died a few scenes before, the filmmakers thought it was perfect for the film and put it in the final cut.
Well, that was smart of him.
Well, yeah, it works as like a...
Yeah.
It double makes sense, because he's going into a stressful situation of like, alright, well, I guess I'm going to try and like be cool with this guy that I'm kind of scared of or whatever. And plus, he's like, his cat also died, so it's like, it makes sense he would be self-soothing in that moment. And also, he's like a crackhead, so he would pick up like a stray cat.
Yeah.
And crazy stuff such as that.
So I guess it was also improvised when Anthony Mackie's like, man, put that damn cat down. I guess that was improvised as well.
Which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
He was in character.
He was.
Yeah.
Well, that is Half Nelson. I apologize if we didn't go for over 2 hours in this movie. But you know what? It's a short... I wouldn't say it's simple. It's short and sweet, but I wouldn't say it's simple.
I would say...
It's a short and sweet film. So you know what? A short and sweet episode.
If we had both done our homework and maybe especially me, I feel like I could have gotten even more out of it had I rewatched it. But I hate rewatching movies right after I watched them, and I hate taking notes.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. But I think it's very dense, and I think even if you listen to all of this and you still haven't seen the movie, I think you could still probably watch it and get a lot of your own original things out of it.
For sure.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to
Evan!
This episode. Oh, yeah.
What do you rate the movie?
Oh, I give it an 8 out of 10.
I give it my classic.
3 out of 3?
3 out of 3 stars.
Nice. Yeah. It's a good movie.
It's a great film.
It is. It is.
It's a great picture.
A bit of a tough watch, I would say, but
nah, I think it's fun.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Fun movie.
Yeah. So I imagine some people. I mean, you know, I dwell in the darkness, so you know it's ain't nothing new for me. But yeah, I imagine some people might have a tough time watching it.
You were just saying that for the normies.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to mention the moment that did make me cry with the mom. And it was so real. Yeah. It was a real moment.
Tell me.
Well, we were wrapping it up, so I don't know why I'm bringing this up. But I just wanted to mention it because I feel like I didn't go, fully into it.
Yeah.
It was just like such a real moment where she could just tell something was wrong with her daughter. But she couldn't really say anything beyond. Like, she even says, like, oh, it's, like, my brother's in jail or whatever. And she's like, well, is anything else going on? Or, because it was like, why would this hit you so hard?
Yeah. After
it's been a while, and I don't know, it was just a cleverly written moment that made me cry.
Yeah,
it was a beautiful moment.
It was a beautiful moment, wasn't it?
And it's just it's a very well written movie.
I agree,
and I don't say that often.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't say that often, Evan.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So I had to pay that compliment to the film. Evan, can we end the episode on one final thing that is completely unrelated? Francis Ford Coppola was at the Plaza.
He was. I wasn't there for that. But
wasn't that cool?
That is cool.
That was badass.
And we were at Mellow Mushroom getting drunk. And Francis Ford Coppola was at the Plaza.
And you know what? I wouldn't have it any
other way. I was going to say, you know what? I think we won.
I think we did. He should have come through to Mellow.
Yeah, that would have been dope.
He would have had a grand time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's epic. I love the Plaza.
Yeah. Kevin was there.
Francis Ford Coppola was there.
He was.
Oh my god.
He sent me a picture.
Of the back of his head or something?
I'll show it to you right now. Sorry, RNS listeners. This is a Dylan exclusive. You don't get to see it.
If we get Kevin's permission, can we put it in the video?
Yeah, sure. Let me find it. There you go.
My god. And he doesn't look a day over 79. He looks great.
So there you go.
Wow. What a special moment. It's crazy how some famous people look like such caricatures.
Not
that he's ugly, but he looks like a character. Like,
yeah,
he looks
does.
Like,
not that he's ugly. I didn't assume that meant ugly.
I'm just saying he looks like he's like made up to be like a Wes Anderson character or like He
looks like he directed The Godfather.
Yeah, he does. He does. But yeah, twisted fucking psychopaths running around Atlanta and Mellow Mushroom and everything. So I just thought that was a cool, funny little thing. Guess what? We love you. Thank you for listening.
If you didn't, please like, subscribe, hit the bell.
Do leave a like. If you're listening to this, I'm assuming you listened to the whole episode, so
leave a comment. Tell us what you think about Half Nelson.
Go watch Half Nelson.
Well, we mentioned at the beginning, stop listening now if you have not seen the movie.
Well, to be honest, I don't trust anyone watching this.
Me either.
I don't trust them.
But if you're one of the people who has seen the movie and you're listening, please tell us what you think about the movie.
Yeah, what do you think about our great hook?
What do you think about the Band-Aid? Write that. Comment what you think about the Band-Aid.
What is the Band-Aid? What does it mean? What does it mean?
Please.
And, one little tidbit as well is that Dre was wearing red, white, and blue for a good portion of the movie.
Oh, really?
Maybe you could go in the comments and track minute by minute what color she's wearing, and tell us when does she stop and then start again wearing red, white, and blue?
Do that.
Is her faith restored in America? There's a lot to dive into.
Yeah, I agree.
Interesting. But anyways, I won't hold you anymore. Thank you for your likes, your comments, and everything. And we'll catch you next week for Evan's pick for a film.
Yes, I haven't decided yet, so no tease.
Okay.
But it'll be something awesome.
But it will be Norbit.
It will be Norbit. It'll be something awesome, I'm sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
What else would it be?
So thank you all for listening, and have a beautiful evening.
And take your tired ass home.